fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021 when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
A U.S. official has confirmed to CBS News President Biden has given authorization for Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep into Russian territory.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by-date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
here, John. Hey, everybody. Welcome into Redacted on this Thursday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
We got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to be covering this latest spy fallout. Why was the ambassador to Israel, former Governor Mike Huckabee, now the ambassador to Israel, meeting with a United States traitor? And the White House is scrambling right now, trying to figure out what to do. The fallout is severe. I mean, these are individuals who would normally be put to death. Not Governor Huckabee. We're talking about spies caught spying against the United States and executed. Why was Huckabee meeting with this individual? We're going to unpack all of that today.
We're also going to talk about Israel continuing to violate the ceasefire. Meanwhile, Israeli Ambassador Huckabee says, no, it's going to hold. It is not. There's been approximately 300 Palestinians killed since the ceasefire. So what do we expect? I mean, that's a joke, right? What do we expect from the U.S. government's response? That's kind of a, two people walk into a bar joke, right?
Right. You know exactly what's going to happen. We all predicted this. Also, we're going to look at NASA. Why did NASA cut a feed after a UFO was spotted on their NASA cameras flying right next to the International Space Station? Flying, just hovering, and then suddenly NASA cuts their feed. We have an individual who really, I think, has a lot of problems with NASA's fraud. They're lying. And we're going to be talking about that as 3I Atlas, they're now claiming, is a comet. So all of that and more, but let's get into the top news right now.
Well, the White House was forced to hold an emergency meeting reportedly after a bombshell story hit Washington this morning. Apparently, the CIA is pissed about it. The New York Times found out that U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee held a meeting with Jonathan Pollard. He's a man from Texas who was convicted and imprisoned for decades for spying for Israel. He gave them nuclear weapon information. You guys. Now, Pollard himself confirmed it to the New York Times, but the ambassador's office has not said very much about it because obviously this is infuriating. A quick backstory on this traitor. He was born in Texas, but raised by Zionist Jewish parents. Pollard is one of the most damaging traitors in American intelligence history and the only American ever sentenced to life in prison for spying for an ally. In the mid-'80s, while working as a Navy intelligence analyst, he stole tens of thousands of classified documents that reportedly could fit in a room 6 by 6. So much so that Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger said exactly that. Actually, 6 by 10 was the measurement of the room that all of the documents could fit into. He was caught in 1985, convicted, and served 30 years in federal prison, the harshest sentence ever given to an American who spied for a friendly nation, so we say. He never expressed remorse, never. He still says that he is openly loyal to the land of Israel and the people of Israel, and he embraces an Israel first doctrine. When he was paroled in 2015, he was not allowed to leave the United States. But at the end of President Trump's first term, it was the Justice Department under Trump, as a favor to Netanyahu, that lifted his travel restrictions. And the minute that happened, he moved to Israel. He was greeted there by Netanyahu himself like a national hero. The reason they're fist bumping instead of hugging is because this is December 2020 during peak COVID. That's why the people are wearing masks. This is him kissing the ground. This person, again, betrayed America. What purpose could it serve for an ambassador, Ambassador Huckabee, to schedule this meeting? It was not even put on his schedule. So he was trying to hide it. Now, here is Pollard recently talking openly about how Israel should threaten America with these nuclear weapons.
Admit this, we are now feeding our enemy. I mean, this has never happened in history before, and you have to ask why. And I don't want to hear this business that it's consistent with Jewish morality. It isn't. Anybody saying that doesn't know anything about Jewish morality at all. Oh, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. And what happened?
Okay,
what
you
happened
can watch this
was,
later. Who is us? He is not saying us. He means Israelis. He later on says that we openly need to threaten the Americans with this nuclear weapon that we have. Joining us to discuss is CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou, who can explain more about exactly how dangerous this has always been for Americans, Thank you for joining us. What is your gut reaction to this?
Oh, sounds like you're muted, John.
Thank you for having me. When I woke up this morning and saw this news, I was absolutely outraged, and I was so happy to receive your request to talk about this. You know, let's lay out the facts about Jonathan Pollard first. Jonathan Pollard, as you noted, was arrested in 1985 and charged with spying for Israel. He did not do it for ideology, which is what he wants us to all believe. He did it for money. They paid him cash, just like the Soviets used to do with their spies, or the Chinese. He did it for cash. And he gave the Israeli government tens of thousands of pages of documents classified at the top secret level, not just run-of-the-mill secret CIA documents or confidential State Department documents, top secret military intelligence and NSA documents that the Soviets then gave, that the Israelis gave to the Soviet Union in exchange for the Soviets then releasing Russian Jews to emigrate to Israel. So it's not just that he spied for Israel and Israel learned our secrets. Israel took those secrets and traded the secrets to the Soviet Union, our greatest enemy on the planet at the time. He's lucky that he wasn't executed for what he did, because God knows Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed probably for less, at least in the case of Ethel Rosenberg. So for our ambassador, the American ambassador, to, number one, meet with Jonathan Pollard, number two, to meet with him off the books, which is another thing that we learned in this revelation today, and to, number three, not get the permission of the White House or the Office of the Secretary of State is unforgivable. And Ambassador Huckabee should resign or should be fired for doing this.
I can't even believe that they would be vacillating on this. According to reports today, from what we're hearing, there was an emergency meeting at the White House to deal with this, I'm sure. But you've got Susie Wiles, as sort of the gatekeeper in the White House, right? She's been a destructive force in the Trump administration and really protecting, I think, a lot of these types of people. So what do you expect to happen? I mean, yes, he should absolutely be fired, or he should resign immediately. And what should the president do? Should the president immediately accept his resignation?
If I were the president, yes, I would. I have worked in American embassies around the world for half of my adult life, and I know how business is conducted, especially business by American ambassadors. If you're going to meet with anybody that's even a little bit controversial, you have to get the permission of the Secretary of State first. You have to cable the Secretary of State and say, Mr. Secretary, I'm thinking of having a meeting with Jonathan Pollard. Here's what I intend to say. We're not going to inform the media, or we are going to inform the media. If the request is that sensitive, it will be referred to the National Security Council, specifically to the National Security Advisor, who's supposed to be the adult in the room. In this case, Secretary Rubio is both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. But then the White House weighs in and would say, absolutely not. It doesn't promote or advance American foreign policy in any way, and it doesn't help the President of the United States in any way. Another thing that we learned today is that this meeting didn't take place yesterday. This meeting took place in July. And it was never on Ambassador Huckabee's calendar, so it was never leaked to the press. Finally, someone who knew about it leaked it. And what we learned from the New York Times and the Washington Post this morning was that the CIA station chief in Jerusalem was apoplectic that this happened. And there were at least 3 whistleblowers inside the embassy that so objected to it that they finally went to the media and said that Ambassador Huckabee had done this.
Oh, it was Americans who, obviously, I guess, yeah, it makes sense, but we just didn't know. Sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was going to follow up with you what you said about the Rosenbergs, and I don't see any daylight at all between what he did and what the Rosenbergs did, transmitting classified nuclear secrets. I mean, to the Soviets, you're transferring classified nuclear secrets to Israel in an effort to say that we should be using and thinking about using nuclear weapons on the United States or have it's unbelievable. I don't see any difference. And they were executed, as you pointed out, in 1953. They were killed for their treason. And Huckabee's just meeting with them off the books.
You know, the CIA, since immediately after the 9/11 attacks, has had this thing called the Tuesday Morning Kill List meeting. It was instituted by John Brennan, and he would meet at the White House every Tuesday morning with representatives from the CIA, from the Justice Department, and from the National Security Council, and they would come up with a list of people to be killed that week because they posed what is called a clear and present danger to the United States. Okay, and then the team fans out around the world, kills those people, and there's a meeting again the next Tuesday. When you have an American traitor like Jonathan Pollard, who has aided and abetted the enemy, in this case, the Soviet Union, or even Israel, really, in this case, and then advocates the use of nuclear weapons against the United States, to me, that is a clear and present danger to the United States, to American citizens, and to American installations. And then to have our ambassador meet with this person,
right?
It's unfathomable.
I believe he still is. He hasn't renounced his American citizenship, right? Because you need to go to an embassy to do this.
That's
so
right.
He is clearly still acting as a traitor to the United States. It's not a past event.
No, it's not a past event. And listen, just to make it even crazier, Jonathan Pollard is currently running for the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, as an independent from the far right wing of, I mean, he's even too right wing for the extreme right wing Zionist parties. So he's just running as an independent. But he's seeking elected office in a foreign country.
Are the American Zionists, the pro-Israel crowd, like the Mark Levins of the world, the Laura Loomers, all of these people, have they been denouncing this? Or have you seen? I haven't seen any condemnation.
Not that I've seen.
I haven't seen it.
No, not on their part. I've seen, you know, the likes of Tucker Carlson denouncing and Candace Owens denouncing, and Twitter or X was very busy today. But no, the Mark Levins of the world, no, I haven't seen a word from them.
Can I just ask you about Ambassador Huckabee? Like, what would, in your vast CIA history and intelligence gathering history, what would be the purpose of him meeting with Pollard?
I believe that Ambassador Huckabee is such an extreme evangelical Christian Zionist that his personal faith trumps his job as a diplomat. I honestly, I'm going to say it straight out. I don't think the man can control himself.
Yeah.
I don't think that his judgment is clear. I don't think that he's equipped or qualified for this job. And I think that he's put us in a position now as a nation where he's endangering us. At the very least, he's endangering American foreign policy. And I believe very strongly he should be removed.
Now, I want to raise an uncomfortable discussion about Jewish people because I think that this is ultimately quite bad for them. Something Norm Finkelstein, a Jewish scholar, son of Holocaust survivors. Do we have a screen? I brought this to ask this question in a diplomatic way. Something he said in his book, The Holocaust Industry, was that from early on, American Jewish elites harbored profound misgivings about a Jewish state. Uppermost was their fear that it would lend credence to the dual loyalty charge. Now, Israel is the only country in the world that claims a worldwide population as its own, whether they want it or not. And this creates a problem for Jewish Americans because they have a foreign government claiming their loyalty. As an Italian descendant, I don't have that conflict with the government of Italy. So Pollard acted on an ideology that most Jews reject, and yet Israel celebrates him. This puts innocent people under fire because it means that Jews now further face this suspicion based on the ideology of a foreign government. So how do you see this for fellow Jews? I don't know if they're Jewish or not, but...
No, I'm not Jewish. I happen to be Greek Orthodox, which has quite a significant presence in Israel. You raise a very important point here, and this is a point that Norm Finkelstein has really expertly conveyed. And this is the reason why so many Orthodox Jews, especially those very religious Orthodox Jews in New York, reject Israel as a state, because the Torah is very clear that there cannot be a state of Israel until the Messiah comes. Now, this is where Ambassador Huckabee plays a role again. He is of that extreme evangelical belief that Christian Zionists can encourage America's Jews to move to Israel because the Bible says that Jesus will come back when all the Jews have returned to Israel. And they believe that as human beings, they can hasten the hand of God by pushing all the Jews in the world, or at least all the Jews in the United States, to Israel. It's laughable to those of us who are not evangelical extremists, but it's dangerous in the world of foreign policy, because then we get people like Jonathan Pollard with, well, what we thought were dual loyalties. Actually, yeah. They weren't dual. He was very, very singular in his loyalties.
Right. Can I just ask you one more question, John, which is about the U.S. Embassy in Israel, and what that would look like from a security perspective, welcoming him into U.S. sovereign territory. And that's what that is at the end of the day.
Someone who wants Americans
sure
bombed.
Is.
That's a good question.
You know, he's literally inside of U.S. sovereign territory in a foreign country. That's what embassies are, right, at the end of the day. And he's a traitor to the United States, and he's there. I mean, shouldn't he have been arrested when he walked in? I mean, what sort of security would happen?
You know, that was my first thought, that if I were Pollard, I would have been afraid to enter the American embassy, because I would have been afraid to be arrested. With all that he said, advocating using nuclear weapons against the United States, I would consider him to be a threat, and I would have arrested him. When I've worked in embassies around the world, whenever there was a VIP visitor for a meeting, everybody in the building knows it. Everybody. And it turns out that Ambassador Huckabee and the deputy chief of mission approved of this visit and met with him without telling the CIA, and as I said, without cabling the State Department and telling the Secretary of State, we're going to do this really, really controversial thing, and we just want you to know beforehand that this is what we're doing. I would ask Ambassador Huckabee, what possible good for American foreign policy did you think this was going to accomplish? What possible good for Donald Trump as president of the United States did you think this would accomplish? That's why I've been thinking about this all day. And my only response remains that Ambassador Huckabee should resign. And if he doesn't resign, he should be fired.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Resign now, Ambassador Huckabee, or be fired.
And again, I want to point out how bad this is for Jewish Americans, because this renews a story that most generations did not know. And now we're all like, what the hell, right? And so they're better off not knowing that these kind of people exist. It's crazy.
And may I add something too? In all the years that Jonathan Pollard was in prison, he was in maximum security prisons. The last one was in Butner, North Carolina. Every single time that an Israeli prime minister visited the United States, they would ask for Jonathan Pollard's release. And every single time they were told, no, he won't be released. Bill Clinton toyed with the idea briefly of releasing him in the late 1990s, and George Tenet and all of the heads of the intelligence agencies in the U.S. government said that they would resign if he were to be released. And then the idea went away. So he did his full 30 years, but then all of a sudden gets VIP treatment at the American Embassy in Jerusalem.
Gosh.
Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. This is not a story that President Trump needs right over his head right now, for sure. John Kiriakou, always great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Former CIA whistleblower, well, still a CIA whistleblower, actually. And always great to see you, John.
The right person to talk to today. I'm so glad you were available. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, coming up on the show, we're going to talk about is the ceasefire. Is it holding? And why there seems to be ceasefire violations? Who's to blame? Is it Hamas? Is it Israel? We'll give you 3 guesses. We're going to talk with Scott Horton, one of our favorite guests. We're excited. With 2 favorite guests back to back. This is awesome on the show today. Really
we keep
excited
good
about
company here on Redacted. Thanks for being with us. You are too.
All right, we've got more news to get to. But first, if you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you should know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. And unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they secured $6.8 million on a case where the offer was just $275,000. And the best part? It's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more if you become their client. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. You can visit forthepeople.com/redacted, or you can click the link in the description to get started.
All right. Well, Israel is bombing and shooting civilians in Gaza. So much for a ceasefire. On Wednesday, at least 28 people, including women and children, were killed. Now, Israel says, yes, we did this, but they were aiming at our own soldiers, even though no Israeli soldiers were harmed or killed. And they did not, as usual, provide proof that Palestinian civilians were firing on them first. Earlier today, they launched airstrikes, so not just gunfire, but now it's airstrikes. The IDF says this was Hamas infrastructure, and they were not aware of civilian casualties, but there were reportedly casualties, including 3 people and an infant, and at least 15 others wounded. Now, even if they were aiming at Hamas infrastructure, that does violate the terms of the ceasefire. Are we going to let them get away with that? Probably yes, but we are bringing in an expert, Scott Horton, the author of Enough Already and from antiwar.com. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to be with you.
You too. Now, according to Antiwar's count, this brings the death toll to 300 since the ceasefire. So why are we still playing this fun game that we have a ceasefire at all?
Just politics. I mean, I don't know. And maybe my sphere is pretty limited on this, but I don't know anyone who thinks that this whole thing is going to be seen through to the end and there's going to be, a honestly rebuilt Gaza Strip for the Palestinian people and will be allowed to go back to anything like the status quo ante here. The Israelis, I think they know that with Donald Trump, they can get away with it. Maybe they need to wait a little while. As the saying goes, I'm pretty sure this saying originates in Tel Aviv. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So at some point, they'll just go ahead and wreck the ceasefire deal. I'm sorry, I'm a broken record, and I forget if I said this on your show previously or not, but essentially all we have here really going for us is Donald Trump's ego, that he promised that he solved this, and that if it falls apart, if enough of that blame is going to fall on him that it makes him look bad, then he's going to do what it takes to prevent it. But then again, if he thinks he could just align with the Israelis and blame it on the Palestinians and say, well, Hamas shouldn't have fired that rocket then, or they should have prevented Egyptian Islamic Jihad from firing one, or whatever kind of pretext, and he thinks he can get away with that, then I would expect him to eventually go along. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to normalize the idea here or whatever. I'm wary of putting this out into the world, but I guess my great fear is that by the end of Trump's term here, that they will have launched a massive cleansing campaign in the West Bank and essentially will go for broke while they think that strike while the iron is hot, because ultimately, right. I mean, really, who's literally going to stop them? At this point, it's only the Arab states' pressure on Trump's pressure on Netanyahu to not do it. But when it comes time to just go for it, I could see them just bombing the Palestinian cities of the West Bank and trying to force all those people to flee into Jordan or something like that before the next American election. So it's going to take all the pressure from the anti-war left and anti-war right and libertarians and everybody else in this country to forge a consensus against any more intervention on the side of Israel there. let them know they will not have our support if they go that far. And Trump has said that before, but I'm saying he needs to know that he has no room to back away from that. And it ain't just the Saudi kings and so forth. It's the American people who will not stand for that.
Right. I mean, you said you don't know anyone who thinks the ceasefire deal will hold. I introduce you to Mike Huckabee's latest tweet.
Oh, no.
It's like, he says, oh, no, it's going to hold, right? And so we see right now this stronghold of propaganda that is just assuring us that it's moving forward. And it's like air. Like, you can't sit on it. You can't look at it. You can't smell it. There's nothing there except pure propaganda. At the same time now, Israel's looking at the expiration of a weapons deal with the United States and trying to extend it by 20 years. And we're told, I think I read this on Anti-War, well, it could be the last time, the last 20 years. What do we do with that? The last 20 years is, a next generation.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, this has always been the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to American military support and foreign aid for Israel, and military aid particularly. They phased out the civilian foreign aid in the late 1990s. It's all military aid. But the thing is, in our Constitution, in Article 1, the Congress is explicitly forbidden from appropriating money to the military for any period of more than 2 years. And that is explicitly to discourage militarism. And yet, James Madison and the guys never figured that we're going to be supporting foreign states' national armies, and that the Congress would be perfectly willing, and the American people would somehow stand for the Congress being willing to make appropriations of money on a 20-year at a time basis, 10 times the limit that they're allowed to appropriate money to our own Pentagon. It's really just, on the face of it, it's so preposterous and so contrary to having a constitutional government, right? It's just the absurdity of it all. When, as Matt Walsh said, and he works for Ben Shapiro, but he says to Tucker Carlson, because, if a country needs America to support its military, then it's not a viable country. And now you could add nuance to that. I would argue that if Israel didn't have America's support, then they would just have to make peace with their neighbors, and they would have to act much more like a normal country in a normal time and place, rather than this insane kind of clean breakian peace through strength, which is not peaceful at all, but endless war against their poor Palestinian captives and occasionally their neighboring states, of course, especially Lebanon and Syria. And so I think if we just backed off, I think the post-48 Israel is probably a fait accompli. It's just the occupation that would have to end. It'd be the permanent brutality and aggressive stance against all their neighbors that would have to end, which would be better for Israel as well as for all their neighbors and for the United States.
Now, you recently wrote a book called Provoked, How Washington Started the Cold War with Russia, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your take on the latest ceasefire and peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Zelensky says he has received it. It would, as predicted, give Russia the territory that they already control. That there's no way that Ukraine can ever win that. Do you think, and I mean, I guess, fool me once, but do you think that this is a viable plan that might actually end the war?
Well, I hate this stuff when it's all like kind of right in limbo. We just don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you what happened before. I'm not as good at speculating. I am, I guess, very hopefully pessimistic here. I don't really see how this can work because there's so many reasons why it can't. On the basic level, the Russians are winning, but slowly. But now you're going to tell them to call it off when they're short of their goals? When they can achieve their goals, it's simply a matter of time. Right. So now they're going to stop fighting basically as a favor to Donald Trump because he promised he could make them somehow. They don't have a much better reason to stop than that. And the Ukrainians, of course, they're losing, but slowly. And they still stand on about 1/4 of Donetsk Oblast. They don't want to turn around and walk away from that. They still control about 1/3 of Zaporozhye and 1/3 of Kherson on the other side of the river, where the Russians are in no position currently to make, any giant move, across to take the rest of Kherson. So the Ukrainians would be asked then to turn around and walk away from territory they still control. Now, under one version of the deal, from what I read about I don't know if this is the fact, but the original reports had it that the Russians might be willing to draw the lines where they are in Zaporozhye and Kherson. And this is something that they had floated this previously, say a month ago. They talked about this, and the Wall Street Journal had reported that they heard that from the Kremlin, not from the White House, that there were someone in Russia had said that maybe they would draw the line in Zaporozhye and Kherson. If you're picturing the map of Ukraine now, this would be all the territory to the east of Crimea, the whole Azov coast there, and the so-called land bridge guaranteeing Russian access from the Donbass region, which is Donetsk and Luhansk, across Zaporozhye and Kherson to Crimea, and would guarantee their freshwater access to the Dnieper River, which is something the previous government had cut off and which the Russians restored as soon as they invaded in 2022. So all that is done. And as you said in your opening question, everybody knows the Ukrainians cannot roll back Russian gains at this point. The only question is, can we get them to call a timeout when neither side is where they want to be?
Right.
And so,
I believe part of the deal is still an American presence there, which is something Russia has long since objected to, is
some kind of security guarantee.
Yeah, peacekeepers or whatever. We're going to stormtroopers.
So I haven't seen that much detail of it. You're ahead of me on the details there. I mean, if they're talking about putting, did you say they talk in there about putting American forces on the ground there?
I think it was security forces or like temporary. The way that, I mean, who knows, right? But Russia has long since rejected anything of the sort.
Yeah.
So if that's in there, then that is very much pee in the pool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Russians, this war was started for, first of all, the ongoing civil war in the East that they were determined to solve. And then secondly, the ongoing promise and move toward full NATO expansion into Ukraine, and then the threat of American military forces being stationed there as well. And so that was the line that the Russians had drawn. So they have insisted since the start of the war that terms for Ukraine's surrender will include permanent neutrality baked into their constitution, written into their constitution, as well as America and NATO forswearing NATO membership for Ukraine and promising to end their previous quest to bring them in. And so for them to stop short of those concessions on the part of the West in Kiev, I would be amazed, right? It's not like they are in the financial crisis that Joe Biden promised to inflict on them. No, in fact, they are doing okay. They have price inflation and things are not perfect. The war ain't free and the Russians are paying the cost for it, but it's one they literally speaking can't afford. Unlike us, who spent probably 3 times as much as them, and our side still loses anyway.
Yeah. There's a quote by Calvin Coolidge. He says, "Every dollar that we carelessly waste means that the working class's life will be so much more meager." So we are living that. We're experiencing that. Scott Horton, thank you so much for joining us. I guess, in terms of Trump's peacekeeping, he's not getting an A+. He's not honor society right now. We're not that impressed.
But I will give him credit that he really is sincere about trying to find a way to end this war in Ukraine. I just think he got inaugurated at just the wrong time to be able to tie this up. And if he can get this done, if he and Witkoff can get this done, then let us all celebrate him as Trump the Great for at least a day or a week or something, because he'll have really earned it if he does see this through.
Right. Well, I mean, if we put these two wars together, like a ceasefire in Ukraine could hold far more likely than a ceasefire in Gaza.
I agree with that. Yes.
That's just the reality of it, right? So
because Putin is Putin and Netanyahu is Netanyahu. That's why.
Exactly. All right. Yeah. Well, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on Redacted. Scott Horton, follow him on X, antiwar.com, and the great book Provoked. And enough already.
Are you going to talk about the Scott Horton Academy?
We are premium members of the, or whatever you called the lifetime membership of the Scott Horton Academy. We should tell people, if you want to research global conflicts, that's where you should start. Just launched a couple weeks ago.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much, guys. It's a brand new project. I've been working on it all year. It's similar to Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. It's me doing a very long form course on the Middle East. And then I also have the great James Bovard on 40 years of investigative journalism, Ramzi Baroud on A Palestinian's Take, the real history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. William Bupert, who's a former Army officer on America's history of military failure since the Second World War. And we got more coming, including C.J. Kilmer on how Woodrow Wilson is the worst person who ever lived because he's the father of Hitler and Lenin, Stalin, and Mao. And also this guy, Adam Francisco, who is a Lutheran professor from Concordia University, who I think as early as next week, we will be publishing his long-form course, Debunking Christian Zionism, which I know everyone is going to be so interested in. And we got goodies too. If you get the lifetime membership, you get a free copy of Enough Already, and you get a nice little notebook and things like that. And we've got nothing but great feedback from the thing so far. People are adding it to their homeschool curriculums, and I'm getting lots of great messages and stuff. So it's really great. ScottHortonAcademy.com for people who want to check that out.
Yeah, I actually, we have the notebook. And I asked Ramsey, I'm like, should I give this to my kids? Can my teenagers go through the Israel-Palestine one? And he's like, you do it first. So I'm making my way through it, and then I will see. But I think that at 15, my son is ready. So, yeah.
And Ramsey is just great. I mean, I could not have done better than to pick him to host
He's amazing.
that course. It's just fantastic. I know people get so much out of it for sure.
So ScottHortonAcademy.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
Check it out. Check it out. We need, especially for like homeschool families, like want to really learn the truth about what happened and what's going on. This is the great place to go. Scott, great to see you as always.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
You bet. All right. Coming up here on the show, we're going to talk about, what are we talking about next?
The war in the Arctic,
Yes.
the piece I've been looking forward to. Clayton has prepared for us.
Well, a couple of years ago here on the show, we told you about the impending, basically, trade war, what's going to unfold in the Arctic Circle as that ice, of course, has melted. Russia, China have most control of that. Now the United States wants their piece of the action. We've been warning about it for a couple of years. We're going to dive deep into what that actually looks like. We're going to talk about that, plus NASA and the 3-Eye Atlas and those pieces of the story coming up. But first, the cost of everything, of course, has exploded. And what does a U.S. dollar get you these days? Because it's being continually devalued thanks to the Federal Reserve, which is a large criminal organization that just basically prints money, devalues our currency. It's one giant cabal, of course. Started under Woodrow Wilson. So, you heard Scott Horton there just talking about how horrible a human being he was. Yes, the creation of the Fed and the devaluing of our U.S. dollar. The reason that we have a Fed, of course, is to continue to carry out wars around the world. And they don't want us owning gold. They moved us off of a gold standard. But that's why Natalie and I invest in gold and silver as a way to protect our family. Yes, it's great that it's skyrocketed in value. I love that gold has when we started buying, it was around $1,700 an ounce. It's now over $4,000 an ounce. That's wonderful, but that's not why we do it. We do it actually to protect our family. Think of it like a lockbox where you take US dollars and you convert them to gold or silver, and it's sustained for 5,000 years. Every government currency in world history has collapsed. Yes, indeed, it has. So now is a chance for you to get access to gold and silver and start doing this for your family. Reach out to our friends at Lear Capital. That's who we use. You can have gold or silver shipped right to your house. You can store it in your gun safe, or you can store it off-site in a guarded facility. Totally up to you. They will walk you through that process. They're a fantastic American company, and the best part is they want you to develop a relationship with you just by getting on the phone with them. There's no pressure. The first time we ever started working with them before they were on our show, we just called them. We had a great conversation with them, and we moved through the process with them. They held our hand the entire way, and that's what they will do for you. So call them, 1-800-613-3557, and you can ask for their free gold guide. They'll ship it right to your house. You can sit down with your loved ones and talk about, hey, how can we start moving some US dollars into precious metals to protect our family? And they'll walk you through that process. Or just go to the website, learredacted.com. And guess what? You can receive up to $15,000 in free bonus metals with a qualified purchase. Once again, that's learredacted.com. That is the place to go. All right.
Hey, before we move on, what was the context of the Trump Truth Social saying seditious behavior death penalty? Do you know this story that's trending? I can't get to the bottom to what the context was.
I forget when he posted that. It wasn't.
He just posted it, he didn't forward it from anything. He didn't.
Was it a repost, an old one?
No, he just said it.
When did he say it?
Because at 8 o'clock this morning.
Maybe he's referring to Governor Huckabee or Ambassador Huckabee.
Clearly not, but
what else would it be?
I don't know. So let me know in the chat what you think that was for. Obviously, that's very dangerous rhetoric. like most of his, but yeah, I'm very curious. Obviously, now Democrats are condemning that. I just have the Truth Social up, but I don't at all know what it was about. And Democrats are now going to say nothing. It's just seditious behavior, punishable by death. But Democrats now are going to make themselves a victim of death threats because of this, and I don't know what it was for. Maybe the chat does.
Anybody in the chat? You read the chat here. I'm going to pull it up here, see if I can find it.
No audio for who? That was old.
Okay,
that's for when John. Yeah.
Here's the post if you want to take this, Philip. Yeah, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example.
I think that's parroting. Stephen Miller was just saying something very similar to that about. Man, there's too many things I can't even recall what event it was, but I think that's parroting what Stephen Miller was I just saw, but I can't remember what he was referencing it to, but something that Democrats were saying, calling out, that's my guess, because he had said it was seditious.
Okay, well, we don't know. We just wanted to see what context this is in. We will follow up on that.
All right, let me just pull up my notes here. All right. Man, so I need to increase the size of this screen. It's a little small. I'm going to get my spectacles out. When I plug the laptop in here to the thing, it puts my text like
dinky.
So you can't even see it. So I have to keep unplugging it from the laptop here. Back in 2023, we here at Redacted warned that war could be coming to the Arctic Circle, which is quickly emerging as one of the most important trade routes in the world. Russia and China, during the Biden administration, basically set up shop with icebreakers and territorial water controls and trade routes and all of that, while the United States basically sat back and let all of this happen under the Biden administration. To be fair, the previous Trump administration didn't do anything about it either. Neither did the Obama administration. So it's like a long history of not doing anything about the Arctic. In 2023, we warned about Norway's actions, specifically, which aimed to break its relationship with Russia, trying to basically blame Russian spies and the Norwegian embassy. And like Russia was like, what are you talking about? Clearly, this seemed like a ruse. And this came right after, of course, Norway and the United States conspired to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. So something was going on here. And at the time, it was obvious to us somebody was pulling the strings of Norway. Somebody was doing something here that Norway wasn't acting alone on this. Here's our report from 2023. Watch, look how young I look. So what exactly are you doing, Norway? Digging your own grave here? Because it doesn't help that the stooge in charge of NATO is the same guy, a guy by the name of Jens Stoltenberg. He's Norwegian. And the next battle is over the shipping lanes through Arctic waters. So what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to set up for a battle right now? We know that these sort of strategic exercises have been going back and forth where Russia will basically try to hit Norwegian targets in their practice rounds. And then Norway basically is doing the same thing, trying to hit Russian targets. So are we seeing like the staging grounds for the next battle that's coming over the Arctic Circle? Look at no grays in my hair 2 years ago.
Otherwise, you look the same, honey.
So are we barreling towards a naval war in the Arctic? Now, we even highlighted the warnings from Billy Meyer, who back in 1987 warned that war would be coming to Scandinavia and this area, and that the West will go to war with Russia over control of these shipping lanes, and even specifically talked about Russia moving troops in the Arkhangelsk region. And guess what? They have. So all of these things are now coming true. You can believe it or not. That's totally up to you. This was 1987. And it turns out in our 2023 prediction, it turns out it was right, because now the Trump administration is scrambling to play catch up to Russia and China. This week, Kristi Noem, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, announced a defense and industrial cooperation pact with Canada and Finland called the Icebreaker Collaboration Effort. And the three nations will collaborate on building 11 new icebreaker ships over the coming years to bolster Arctic defense and sovereignty, basically trying to take control of this region, going head-to-head now against Russia and China. Listen to Kristi Noem.
Today is a major milestone in the race to secure the Arctic for all of our countries. The Arctic is the world's last, most wild frontier, and our adversaries are racing to claim its strategic position and its rich natural resources for their own. If we give up that high ground, then we will condemn future generations to permanent insecurity.
All right,
We're
so
not going to let
permanent high ground? You don't have the high ground at all. If we give up the high ground, you don't have the high ground at all. This is like Devil's Den during Gettysburg. You're like the Confederate soldiers pinned down on those boulders while the Union forces are up on the hill.
Give it up, Anakin.
Right,
I've got
you
the high ground.
Like, you do not have the high ground at all. What most people don't know, because Russia doesn't really talk about it, is what Russia is doing in the Arctic. You've heard all about China's Belt and Road Initiative, which creates shipping lanes, rail infrastructure, trade routes all through Asia, Middle East, Indochina. But you might not have heard about Russia's Arctic Road Initiative, which is basically the same thing. Removing dependence on the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, that the United States has a major hand in, of course. And no more, and creating massive movable infrastructure controlled by Russia. Think about, instead of, there's no land there, of course, but imagine almost like having virtual land moving through this entire area. And that's what Russia is doing right now. This new trade route, which would control trade between the East and the West, the North and the South, doesn't rely on the Suez Canal or the Panama Canal, and it can take upwards of months for deliveries if you have to rely on those trade routes. You could shave months off of all of these trade routes by just using the Arctic. Russia is in the lead right now to add this area to its already massive mineral resources, and the U.S. is way behind. Here was Rex Tillerson after he left the Trump administration. This is during the Biden administration. Listen to him talk about these icebreakers and how far behind we are.
What I can tell you is the United States is behind. We're behind all the other Arctic nations. They have dealt with this. They've gotten way ahead of us. The Russians made it a strategic priority. Even the Chinese are building ice-breaking tankers. Now, why are they building icebreakers? They're not an Arctic nation because they see the value of these passages. So we're late to the game. I think we have one functioning icebreaker today. Their Coast Guard's very proud of it.
Yeah.
As crummy as it is.
Yeah.
And I know in the budget, there is money in the budget for us to build another icebreaker.
to make one more, right. And we've got this old icebreaker. It's like, man, this thing is old. It's like falling apart, but we're proud of this one icebreaker that we have. So if they officially add the Arctic area to the Russian territory, then they will have had their hand on roughly 16% of the world's untapped oil, 30% of the world's undiscovered gas that lies buried beneath the ocean there, in addition to vast mineral deposits of nickel, platinum, many rare earth metals right now. And the United States under President Trump has declared certain precious metals and rare earth minerals as a vital national resource right now. In the AI revolution and everything else, we need it. We don't have it. So he's declared it now a national security risk. So here we are barreling towards potential war in the Arctic Circle. And, Russia is amassing troops in those areas. So this is not a flight of fancy. Thank you for that. Someone in the chat room just said, hey, Clayton, by the way, Devil's Den at Gettysburg changed hands many times. Yes, it did during the Civil War, or during the Battle of Gettysburg. Yes, it did. But as a Gettysburg fan and having grown up in Pennsylvania, it's amazing to stand there on those boulders where you can see chips of the boulders where the Union soldiers have hit the boulders and pieces of the rock have broken off, and you can see where the Confederates were pinned down. It's super cool if you like American history. Anyway, that's what's happening in the Arctic. All right, coming up here on the show, we're going to talk about NASA and why they continue to lie to us, and what are they hiding about the International Space Station? The other day, some large object flew right by the International Space Station. It was caught live on the cameras, and then just seconds later, NASA cuts their feed and goes black. This all comes as today we're getting word from NASA specifically about 3I Atlas and what we're now calling it and what exactly it is. We're going to talk to somebody about that who's been calling out NASA's lies for many, many years. But first,
First, we want to tell you about our friends over at Brightcore Nutrition because, hey, have you tried their new Kimchi pill? Well, the reason that they invented it is several reasons, but one is to help you fight microplastics, which are in every part of our lives. Scientists now estimate that we consume a credit card's worth of plastic every week through our food, our water, our tea bags even. One study found microplastics in human lungs. No one is safe from exposure. And plastics don't just sit in your body. They cross the gut lining and leach into your blood, disrupt everything. They've been shown to alter gut bacteria. They are also an endocrine disruptor, which means they're messing with your hormones. So again, even if you eat clean or avoid packaged food, you're still exposed. You really can't opt out. But your gut can fight back with Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition. It is a potent ally in this toxic world. It is packed with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi and proven to break down BPA, helping you detox from the inside out. It doesn't just support digestion, it helps protect your cells, your brains, one brain. You probably have one brain. Your hormones and your future. Your body was never designed to handle plastics, but your gut was designed to help protect you. You just have to give it the right tools. So right now you can get 25% off with our code REDACTED at the link below. It's mybrightcore.com/redacted. Or you can call. You can call and get even 50% off plus free shipping. The number is there, 888-404-6312. You might get a better deal if you call, but if you'd like, either way, mybrightcore.com/redacted for their great kimchi one. mybrightcore.com/redacted.
So in our chat room says, ultimately you will crap out a Coke bottle. Art, thank you, Art, for that.
Am I?
You will crap out a Coke bottle with all that plastic. Nomi Black says plastic comes out when you blow your nose. Oh my gosh.
Ew.
Barry says I eat 3 credit cards per day.
Okay.
love our audience. You guys are keeping the fiber going. That's your new form of fiber.
I feel like I looked up the quote. It's not give it up, Anakin. It's over, Anakin.
It's
so
over, Anakin.
I know I would
Did
be
somebody
called out
correct
for that.
you?
Yeah, a few people. It's over, Anakin. I've got the high ground. My son says it a lot. I should have known it.
I love that people in our chat room got that quote correct. I love it.
Do I get a demerit for getting it wrong?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be punished later.
You'll give up the high ground later, if you know what I mean.
Don't embarrass me.
It's my job. It's my job around these parts. All right. What the hell is NASA hiding? A few days ago at 11 a.m. Central Time, the live feed from the International Space Station suddenly went black, or they cut to their slate with a bunch of text. We're experiencing some problems here. After some sort of a craft, something just floated by, some sort of an unidentified craft to many of us, flew right by the International Space Station. So you can see it right here. And you can hear, of course, the voices of the International Space Station.
Absolutely. I will not do anything inside the work volume.
Now watch here on the right side of your screen.
Excellent config. You're very welcome. And just to kind of smooth things over when we do come back, KU, you'll be on space to ground 3 for your ops today with Shankini.
There you go. Keep sliding over. And then
3 with Shankini. Thanks.
And then reappears. Now, according to reports, there's a black spot in the frame there. So when things move in the middle of that area, things do disappear. That's not like an anomaly. That's actually part of the camera. But there it goes, floating by. What the heck is that? And then I think just shortly after that, then NASA cuts the feed and puts up their slate. It says, sorry, nothing more to see here. But this is just, one incident among many. So this isn't an isolated thing here. Our next guest, Justin Robert, has been calling out NASA's BS and lies for years in Florida. Here he is in front of the Brevard County Commission. Watch.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Today I'd like to bring to your attention a potential fraud on an enormous scale happening in your county. There's now clear evidence of NASA using numerous methods to grossly mislead the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station. During interior ISS scenes from NASA's own live feed, the use of wires, harnesses, green screens, and virtual reality have been detected to achieve the appearance of a weightless environment. Examples of this include astronauts fading in and out of the screen, green screen glitches, grabbing objects that aren't really there, pulling on invisible wires, getting tangled in their harnesses, and even astronauts appearing out of thin air. This begs the obvious question. If they're really up there, why are they using Hollywood techniques to fake the footage?
Great question. Justin joins us now. Thank you, Justin, for, first of all, I love that you're trying to bring awareness to this and call out NASA's fraud. But first, before we get into all of that, just your response to seeing this feed cut once again after some object floats by that they won't tell us what exactly it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. You know, when I see it, it's hard for me to take anything serious from NASA based on the conclusions I've come to over the years. But, you know, they may well have caught something foreign in the sky and then cut the feed. But we have to wonder, is this our own government stuff? Is this an actual unidentified flying object of other beings? Or is NASA just continuously distracting us with space stories? You know, was that feed even real? It's a little tough to even tell, right? And like I said, when we've caught them filming spacewalks underwater, using their interior shots look like they're filmed in a studio, hanging from harnesses, I have to wonder what they're ever showing us. A lot of us have come to the conclusion that that ISS live feed is just a high-altitude plane with a fisheye lens. It would be very easy to just send that thing up quite high, not quite 250 miles, and just constantly stream us something back. I do not believe that there are human beings on a space lab flying 17,500 miles an hour, 250 miles above our head.
So I guess my question is, because I'm wide open to all of this. Hell, I mean, in my studio, I've got a damn Sasquatch picture over my shoulder here in the studio. So like, there it is. Yeah. Like, I'm open to anything, right? So just show me the evidence. I come from the Thomas Sowell, just show me the evidence here. And what you're showing in these videos, of course, the harnesses, the strings, like, why would they do this? Why would they go to such great lengths to even have like a 250 mile above the earth high altitude plane just there with a live feed? Like, what's the purpose of them lying to us with this?
Well, it appears around the 50s, Admiral Byrd went exploring Antarctica. And it's funny that you were talking about cutting through the ice in the Arctic earlier, but I think they found something down in Antarctica. He talked about a continent the size of America, not of ice, green and lush, that no one had ever seen before. So I think they could be potentially hiding other continents, resources, who knows what other sorts of secrets. Maybe the aliens are beyond Antarctica. I'm not sure, but that was when they created the Antarctic Treaty. That was when they shut it all down, and all the countries that are at odds with each other do agree that no one's allowed to explore Antarctica independently. So it's a pretty big secret that we can look past World War III issues and say, okay, no one's going down there to mess with those penguins, right, as they tell us. And then they create NASA in the same decade. And I truly believe that they're hiding our true history, where we live, what this place looks like, and that we're not necessarily in an endless void of space, and we could be the center of this intelligent design. And it's really just to keep our focus on outer space above us when potentially there could be outer lands. You know, I liken it to the Truman Show. Truman was very hard to control once he started getting curious and finding out that there was more out there. If they wrapped our world around the ball and just told us there was nothing else, and if you go around in the same direction, you'll hit your starting point, no one's ever going to go looking for the perimeter or the fence or the Antarctic ice wall. And that's what I think they're keeping from us by basically busy work and funneling trillions of dollars for black budget money for who knows what, and just wringing out water and space. I always ask people, how long have they been up there and what benefit have they brought to your life or humanity? No one can really name anything except billions of trillions of dollars per year to take pictures that a lot we've proved are fake. And why are we up there faking this and doing this charade? That is the big $1 million question. And I can only speculate, which is what I just did for you.
We always hear, well, the one thing we can thank the space program for is Velcro.
I know. And could we have not come up with that without astronauts?
Yeah, we got Velcro out of the whole deal. Yesterday here on the show, we did a deep dive on Antarctica. We had on Brad Olson to talk about, of course, what's going on there and the secrets in Antarctica. And yes, Admiral Byrd discovering this massive underground area and hole, and something the size of the United States of America underground. So there's a really fascinating theory to think that, and there's been a number of whistleblowers who say, stop looking up. You need to be looking here, because these craft and the things are right here, either in the water. They've been under our earth for thousands of years. It's all here. It's not out there.
Yeah, and if you read Bill Cooper, who wrote a book, Behold a Pale Horse, he talks about his time in the Navy, seeing these crafts come from the ocean. We don't know what's down there. It's very unexplored. So you've got to wonder if extraterrestrials, if you think about the word and break it down, it sounds like extra terrain, extra territory. The extra territory could be what Admiral Byrd found. And that could be where these beings are coming from. I like to stick with what I can prove. It's really hard to prove that the aliens exist, but it looks like there's more evidence that they come from outer or under than, up above us. So NASA almost appears more like a big worldwide intelligence agency, keeping the biggest secrets from the world about our true history. Whether there was great resets and aliens, who knows what? Maybe those are the people that keep a tight lid on that.
Right. So people in our chat room are just saying that NASA is basically, a co-opted agency at this point, and NASA is fake as hell. These were all illusions up there. Like everything that they're telling us is a lie. That CGI. Although people are saying that like these feeds are fake to begin with. They're cut. Go ahead.
And another one that really just struck me when I went down this rabbit hole was the photographs of Earth from space. I mean, you remember the blue marble that they put on our iPhone when we first got the iPhones? That's not even a real photograph. And when you dig deep, it's like a NASA guy has this long explanation about how he had to create it in Photoshop. And I'm like, how high have they really been? And then you catch astronauts saying that we've never been above low Earth orbit before, kind of a slip up. And so if we didn't go to the moon, which I think is pretty well accepted, especially most people in this audience, then you have to ask yourself, how high have they really been? If you've got satellites up there for decades, tens of thousands of them, and not one of them has turned around and taken a picture of our home in one full frame, every single one is created in Photoshop. I always ask people to pull them up, and then you get one that they admit is fake. Another one's got something funky written in the clouds. Then you find two that are from 20 years apart and they have the same cloud pattern, like identical, showing they're using trickery. So you just have to ask why. And I'd really like to know where our tax dollars are going, because a lot of it goes to NASA.
Right. And these secret off the books projects. So it's like it's being funneled there and then siphoned off into these defense contracts. No, you're right about that. In fact, last year, I think we covered here how Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation, they were presenting U.S. moon photos, and Russia, I think through their own AI tools in Russia concluded that they were 100% fake, or they knew with 99% certainty that the United States moon landing photos were totally faked. And Putin just said, I'm not surprised, because I think he knows.
I know. Yeah, at this point, the moon landing one is kind of that, oh, yeah, we all know that's fake at this point. I mean, you just simply look to the astronauts. The three men that got back looked like they were being served a life sentence. Right. Watch a championship basketball team's reaction and then watch those astronauts and think about why they're so different. They should be the same, and they're not even close. So it looks like men forced to lie. Neil Armstrong gave like one speech for the rest of his life, and he said something like, I hope that the younger generations can peel back truth's protective layers. I mean, talk about a cryptic thing to say as an astronaut in one of your only speeches to a bunch of young people. And, Buzz Aldrin's been caught slipping up. I feel like Buzz Aldrin wants to tell us. He's probably just scared to death. But, he had an 8-year-old ask him why we haven't been back to the moon in 50 years. And he's like, well, that's my question. And it's because we didn't. And then he just starts to mumble and fumble. And it's like, man, you're not acting like you went.
No, I've interviewed Buzz Aldrin. I didn't get a chance to talk to him specifically about this. It was a brief interview years ago, and boy, do I wish I would have. But there's been a number of times, not only that interaction with that 8-year-old where he was like, we haven't been to the moon. He like just openly admits that we haven't been there. You wonder as he nears, if he would just, come out, if there's some sort of something he's written down somewhere for family members that he can release this information, it would just shatter everything we know about this. You're right. And then that press conference with Neil Armstrong and Bud, they're all sitting there. It looks like they're at a wake. They're miserable after they get back there. I mean, people are like, oh, well, of course, you travel. But it was days, or it was like more than a week or so. I mean, it wasn't like within the first 10 minutes of them landing in the ocean. Like they had been back for a while before they did that press conference, if I'm not mistaken. And this There's been a number of times, though, that I've just been curious. Buzz Aldrin's comments about not going to the moon, and we haven't been there. And that wasn't the only time he said it, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's been a number of times he's sort of slipped up, and it just there's been a couple different ones. I mean, you've had a guy on the ISS say it was callers calling in or something, and he said, talking to you just from the other side of the country in Maryland or something. He almost made this reference as if he was in California or he was in Maryland. And it's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be in space and not really stationary. Why would you reference like where you are? And from the gravity pockets, you've had the guys actually drop objects on the ISS where things are supposed to float. I just keep asking, like I asked in that meeting, I'm not trying to make any positive claims here of what's going on, but why are we faking the videos if we're up there? If I tell you I own a Ferrari and I keep sending you pictures of me standing next to the car, and each time you can disprove that I've faked it, I'm not going to trust you going forward about this Atlas thing. I'm not going to trust you about going to Mars. And I'm going to return over every stone from the Challenger explosion, which I also did a speech on, and Gus Grissom, who was tragically killed, I believe, by NASA in 1967.
Well, people are saying, well, yeah, Buzz Aldrin's old. He has dementia. I don't know that that's the case, but he said these statements years ago. I mean, these are like decades old statements. So this is not like something he said last week, just to be clear about that. I want to get your take on this before we let you go, Justin, which is about this 3i Atlas. And NASA now coming out, I think today, I think it was officially today, where they're basically now saying that this is a comet. That's what their official commentary is on us, although they wouldn't let us use their cameras. We wouldn't get close-ups when it was nearing Mars. They gave us the lower resolution photos. They wouldn't give us the high-definition photos, which we know they have. What do you make of this position on 3i Atlas as an interstellar object? It's simply a comet here, even though it's been acting incredibly odd for an object like this.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it because, it's a big problem when our only authority and source on the information is NASA. We have no way to verify if that was really a black hole they took a picture of, if this is really this thing coming at this speed with this trajectory. I mean, we're just looking at lights in the sky, and they could tell us it's something. It could fly by and be no threat. They could be fear-mongering us. We could be mustering up new emotional support and a budget for NASA in a way. I don't know. I've always theorized that the final card is the sort of fake alien invasion. If they can't fool us with false flag terrorism and viruses and all these climate hoaxes, all these things that they've tried, and maybe we're about to kind of get our power back and win the info war, a lot of people think the final card is a fake alien attack, which would really, get us back into, oh, hey, government, save us from this threat, kind of like they wanted us to do with COVID. So I always tell people to have their guard up for that sort of scenario. Take everything they say with a grain of salt and just keep an eye on it. We really can't do anything but kind of watch what the information they feed us and vet it and, use our discernment.
Right. They would love nothing more than to use these reverse engineered craft that they have to kind of pretend that they're aliens and get us all scared. No, we need to herd you into a biometric tracking, future where we monitor everything. It's for your safety. So, and I know Jeremy Corbell has warned about it. He said this is one of their plans. They're going to say there's a large interstellar object coming. It's of unknown origin, and we all need to be controlled and, sort of herded and corralled. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. I know it's coming. Justin, great to have you here. Real treat. I always love. I'm always pleasantly surprised when we have a new guest on and we haven't had on before, and you make me smile. So love to have you back on. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing there, going after NASA. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. I see your clips often, and they're inspiring. So thanks for having me today.
You bet. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, what do you guys think about all that? What do you guys think about that in the comments? A lot of people. The swamp monsters. Colorado Gamer says it's not a joke. Rocks fall out of the sky. Human Torch. Yep. Project Bluebeam. DEWs plus holograms plus secret anti-gravity craft. I don't know. I mean, look, we know that they have this advanced propulsion technology. We know that the government has it. We know that the government has used it. We've confirmed that with our own sources here on the show. They've been using that craft. They've been using these types of technologies for years. And most of what people are seeing in the night sky, they're like, what is this thing hovering over? It's very likely a man-made reverse engineered craft of some sort of incredible origin, but it's U.S. military doing what they do, right? And so I think a lot of what people are seeing is exactly that. So Oh, all that to say, I want to tell you about our friends over at Chapter, because the Medicare annual enrollment period is here, and this is the time to choose your 2026 plan. Here's the deal. Even if you're happy with your current plan, it's critical to review 2026 options because plans change every year. Many just go away entirely. This leaves millions of seniors stuck overpaying or undercovered. Most Medicare agents care more about their commissions than your coverage. That's why you need to know about Chapter. So many of you have taken advantage of this. So many of our audience has already said, thank you, Redacted, for telling me about them, because the best part is it's free. They're the only Medicare advisors who compare every plan nationwide to find the one that truly fits your needs, and their advisors get paid the same amount regardless of which plan they recommend to you. It's completely free. It takes 20 minutes on average, and they've helped people save $1,100 a year. All you need to do is call them. So if you're already on the 2026 plan that works best for you, they're going to tell you straight away, hey, the one you're on is great. Nothing more to see here. Have a great weekend. But if not, they're going to help you switch quickly and easily and save you thousands potentially. So don't let the system take advantage of you. Call them for free. 202-655-5811. Or just go to the website, askchapter.org/redacted. Well, everyone, Thanksgiving next week. And we thought we would leave you today with a little bit of a reminder. It's hard to believe that 4 years ago, we were living in an age when the mainstream media and government officials were telling us how to celebrate Thanksgiving. You know, wearing masks, get vaccinated. Don't invite Uncle Blaine over who is unvaccinated. He's a cretin. How dare you, right? Only invite those people over who are vaccinated. So we thought it'd be worth going down memory lane to remember what they robbed from us 4 years ago. 4 years. It's hard to believe. This all seems like a fantasy world when you watch this video. It's about a 3-minute video, but we're going to say goodbye. We want you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. But remind all of you what they took from us. Watch this craziness.
I got to get to the holidays, and I got like a minute and a half left. Holidays right around the corner. Families find themselves in a jam, right? Because I've been vaccinated. I have an uncle who has not and will not get vaccinated. Do I go to the Thanksgiving dinner with him? How do I handle that?
You tell him either get vaccinated, get tested, or don't come to dinner.
Just like that?
It's easy. That was quick.
Okay.
Thanksgiving now just a week away, and COVID is still part of our daily lives. That means it's important you take steps to keep your loved ones safe this holiday season. Here are 5 things you can do to protect your family this Thanksgiving. Our sources are the CDC, Mecklenburg County Health Director Gibby Harris, and Dr. Joseph Cabaza, a pulmonologist for Cleveland Clinic. 1. Mask up. Mecklenburg County's percent positivity rate still above 5%, meaning that mask mandate isn't going anywhere just yet. The CDC also recommends masking, especially if you're indoors or traveling to an area where transmission rates are high. 2, get vaccinated.
We need people, if they're eligible, to get vaccinated. We need people to get their children vaccinated. We need those who are eligible for boosters to get vaccinated.
Dr. Cabaza also says higher vaccination rates are making travel safer.
We just know the risks are lower now with a bigger chunk of the population vaccinated. So just any kind of travel we do is safer than it was a year ago.
3, bring the party outdoors. This is something both the CDC and Mecklenburg County Health Director Gibby Harris are recommending. COVID is less likely to spread outdoors. 4, make rules. The CDC says this could be especially helpful if you're gathering with people from multiple households. Put things in place like wearing face masks or avoiding crowded spaces before your trip. Health Director Gibby Harris says communicate these rules ahead of time.
If you have specific ground rules or precautions that you want people to take when they're coming to your home, please communicate that in advance. It'll make it much easier for the folks that are coming in.
5, get tested. Harris says if you're traveling, get a COVID test before your trip and a few days after you get home. That way, you're not unknowingly spreading COVID to friends and family. For WCNC Charlotte, I'm Sarah French.